the whole concept of how I raise my kids are essentially the same concept strategies that allowed me to grow up as a multilingual. The key word here is environment, right? You want to create an optimal environment or infrastructure that allows them, that compels the kids to speak a specific language, rather than making studying language like the main goal. It's to, like I mentioned earlier, the ultimate purpose is that person you're communicating with. And in order to communicate with that person, you need this language. Okay, so make an environment that's optimized for these type of choices, language choices. So in our family, I speak Mandarin with the kids. My father, my parents also live with us, so my father, who's Taiwanese, also speaks Mandarin with the kids. My wife is Japanese. My mother is Japanese. So both of them speak Japanese with the kids. We live in Quebec. Go to school in French. Right? And being in Canada, we turn on the TV, there's English. There's some friends here that are Anglophones.
Hi, Tetsu.
Hello, Alvaro. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Thank you. And well, first of all, it's a pleasure to have you on.
Well, the feeling's mutual. Thank you very much. For
Awesome.
you to reach out like that, it's always a pleasure.
Yeah, I think you're gonna help a lot of people with with your own experience, but also with the way you're raising your kids, the way you're helping them acquire different languages in a natural way, and yeah.
Yes, indeed. We as somebody who grew up with multiple languages, I feel it's my duty to pass on, given the advantages and the benefits that I had over my life with these languages. So I feel that it's a duty for me to pass it on, and also at the same time, I'm spreading my experience and knowledge on the internet so that other people could also benefit from this.
Exactly.
My point of view.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So yeah, why don't you start with your own experience? Like, what's your native language, or your earlier experiences with languages? Anything that,
Okay. Yeah. When people ask me, what's your mother tongue? What's your native language? It always catches me like sort of off guard.
Okay.
The definition is so hard. When you say mother tongue, having the mother in there, usually, you refer to the language that came from your mom. But my mother is Japanese, by the way. And Japanese is not my first language. I always use first language, which has that connotation of the strongest language.
Right.
And ironically, my first language is the sixth language or the fourth or fifth language that I learned in my life. But it's the first in terms of strength. So let me start from the beginning. So my father is Taiwanese, my mother is Japanese, but funny thing is I was born in Hong Kong, but the whole family came back to Taiwan before I was 1 year old.
Okay.
And I basically grew up in Taiwan. So in Taiwan, I spoke Mandarin with my dad and my friends, Japanese with my mother. And there's a language called Taiwanese, which is distinct from Mandarin in Taiwan, that is understood by what I think 75% of the people. So I spoke that with my neighbors and whatnot. And I have Hakka, which is another regional dialect in Taiwan that's from my father's side of the family. And then I went to an American elementary school. So yeah, there you go. So that's my fifth language. Is actually my strongest language. So I call it my first language because it's neither my mother's language nor my father's language.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. So that's why I always say my first language is English. It's the language that I am strongest in and the one that I usually think in.
Right.
All right. So those were the five. And then later on, after elementary school, I was sent to Canada, where I am now. And not just anywhere in Canada, but in Quebec. Okay, in the province of Quebec, where the official language is actually French. So out of the blue, I had to go to high school in French at 13, and I learned that up. And then, so that's what, my sixth. And then later on, through traveling and whatnot, I had some interest. I learned Spanish, which is, relatively accessible if you already know French. And then and then thinking I'm a language master, I decided to learn German, which really broke down that confidence pretty quickly. And I also did Italian, which is okay. It's not difficult. And I picked up Portuguese along the way, once again, traveling and whatnot. So that's 10 languages, to different degrees of mastery that I have. But when people ask me how many languages do I speak, I usually say 5. So that's English, French, Japanese, Mandarin, and Spanish. These 5 are the ones that, I can sort of say with confidence that I speak these languages to a fairly good degree, all of which I have through, paid work or volunteer work as, interpreters and whatnot. So I do have these 5. And these are the 5 specific languages that I'm also passing on to my children. That's a big chunk of my language history. I don't know if there's any stuff that you want to poke on right about now.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it's interesting when you talked about, the first language, mother language, because I guess I'm used to, my own experience, both my parents are Spanish, so I have one native language.
That's probably the story for 90% of the people.
Exactly, yeah. But it makes sense in your case that you really don't know whether that's English, Mandarin.
I do keep it at 90, you might think it's 99% of the people, but no, I mean, the world is changing. The world, with globalization, there are so many, cross-cultural couples and kids born in a third country, like myself, right? I have a Taiwanese father, a Japanese mother, but I was born in Hong Kong, and you living in Poland, even though you're Spanish, so your kid will be exposed to Polish very early on in life. So all these things make this situation not quite as unique as before, which is a good, which is a great thing,
Agreed. Yeah, but it's relatively easier to find kids who have parents from 2 different countries, so they have 2 languages to choose from, right?
Already, yes.
But in your case is even 5, right? So that's why it's even more unique, right?
Indeed, with moving countries also, so that sort of really added different dimensions, different levels of complexity. Right. Once again, I cannot be more grateful to my parents.
Yeah, absolutely.
For the upbringing that I've had.
Yeah, but even if you think about it, there's countries like Nigeria or Papua New Guinea where they might be from that country but speak
already
5 different dialects. So
indeed. Same with in India or in China too. I mean, there's many different dialects of Chinese. Not just the major languages like Cantonese and Mandarin.
And being born in Hong Kong, you didn't have any access to Cantonese, or
you walk right into the trap. I never learned Cantonese.
Okay,
so it's almost like the one that I'm supposed to speak, but I don't.
Cool. Yeah, and I'm curious about, especially about French and Spanish, because the other 3. Again, there's sort of native languages for you. Well, I mean, not English now that I think about it, but like your first experience. Well, but you said you went to the the American institution, right? So
I went to an American elementary school in Taiwan.
Right.
Yeah. So my parents already had a plan to ship me out later in life. Well, in those days it was not very common. But my parents already knew that Taiwan already being a politically rather unstable country, and also the fact that the more opportunities they could give me, the better. So English was the obvious choice at that time. Right. Instead of going to a local Taiwanese school, they sent me to an American school to broaden my horizons.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. So I'm especially curious about your experience with French, because you said you were sent to Canada, to Montreal,
That's
and
right.
you were inserted in high school at 13. But did you know any French before that, or?
I knew two words, oui and non.
Okay.
I had to answer all the questions to that. So, when people ask you, aimes-tu ça? Do you like this? Oui. Yeah. But when they ask me something like, quel âge as-tu? I'm like,
Oui.
no. How old are you? So it was a fun experience. I can still remember, one of my first classes, seeing the teacher just talking away, and I see the mouth moving, but I just cannot understand anything. Oh, that was fun. That was fun. But I, made friends quickly. At that age, sort of a swim or die, swim or sink or swim situation. But it was fun. You come to Canada, a completely different environment. The winter sports was just phenomenal. Learning about skating and skiing and all of that. It was just too much fun to be bogged down with languages and whatnot. Just find a way to communicate, and somehow it worked out.
Yeah, I guess as kids, we're not worried about, what
Yeah,
people are going to think of us, or we just want to communicate, right? We just want to.
Maybe it's just my personality. Maybe I'm just naturally outgoing, or maybe my parents did prepare me well, because English already, it is a major language. It is one of the official languages of Canada. So there are people who speak English. Most people can understand to a certain degree, even if they're not, fluent English speakers. So there's some, there's a way to get my points across. But at the same time, I learned quite quickly, through play and some studying. Wouldn't say too much, but and that got me through. So
Right. Yeah, because I was gonna ask if your friends back then were bilingual with English, or you just learned to communicate in French with them.
Well, being in a French province, and actually, I wasn't even in Montreal. It was like about 100 kilometers outside of Montreal. It's a very French town, very French high school. But luckily, just about 10 or 12, 15 kilometers away, there's a English-speaking little village or town right nearby, and some of those folks would come to our high school. So those folks are mostly perfectly bilingual, but the other ones are, they can understand a little bit. I maybe I'll say certain things in English, but they'll have to respond in French and really slowly, or ask somebody to translate. So that really monolingual environment, other than the few friends that came from the English town, that helped, pushed me to speak French much quicker, I think. If I were in a sort of a lukewarm environment where everybody spoke good English, then I might not have learned it as quickly. So I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, because I'm thinking it was a good mix of, it was a sort of crosstalk in a way sometimes, right? Like you were speaking English, especially at the beginning, I guess, but they were remaining French. So you both could understand one another to some degree.
That's right. That's right.
Before you were ready to start speaking, right?
Yeah, and probably my French to English proportion in the dialogues would get higher and higher, and somewhere along the way, just French completely took over. Honestly, like I said, I remember seeing the teacher. I still have that scene of my teacher speaking, and I don't understand anything that was coming out of her mouth. But I don't remember so much of the dialogues that I was having with the friends. Just a few scenes I remember. But even being Asian in that school was, I was standing out. So So I was sort of like a tourist attraction. Yeah.
Right.
And in those days, I remember I was very good at yo-yo.
Nice.
Taiwan, that was a big thing in Taiwan. It was a boom. So I was really good at yo-yos, and I brought yo-yos, and I was like showing off, doing all that stuff.
Nice, nice.
So people were calling yo-yo man. Now that I think about it. So it's these things that sort of, other than languages, having something in common with the friends, and obviously there were bullying and whatnot, but not so much. I can't remember so much. There's a few instances that I can remember, but kids are kids. I sort of like I had much more positive experience than the negative ones by far. So, or maybe I'm just very dull and I just didn't know. I don't know. But overall, it was a fantastic experience in this.
Perhaps they were cursing you out, but you didn't understand, right?
maybe, it's a good thing. I mean, all these friends, we're all still connected on Facebook. We just had what was it, a 30-year reunion like last year, and
Nice.
wow, well, I'm getting old, but yeah. So that was fun, and that was high school. 5 years of high school. I mean, the system's a little different here. High school's 5 years rather than 6. And at the end of those 5 years, one of my best buddies from that school, he went to South America, to Ecuador, and he said, "Hey, come visit." Now he was there for 1 year exchange, and I was studying Ottawa at that time, and he said, come visit, and planned a 2-week trip, and here I am thinking, since I'm going to Quito, well, why not learn some Spanish? And I picked up this travel book and I read a little bit before going. And I remember going there, understanding, a little bit, not too much, but enough to sort of hold a little conversation with like grandpa, grandma, kind of thing.
Because of your French?
Yeah, mostly because verb conjugations and all those are, it's very similar in that sense, even though the verb itself is completely different. Like manger would be comer, which is completely different. But otherwise, fantastico is fantastic, so it works out to a certain degree. And there was much more, obviously, much more listening than speaking. Right. Other than in my dreams. I remember one day I was speaking perfect Spanish in my dream. Once I woke up, I couldn't speak anything, but
we all do,
yeah. But all that I was there for 2 weeks. I was able to communicate to a certain degree, but it's after I came back to Canada that I remember I just sort of felt like the Spanish growing in me. I came back and I joined the student, the Spanish Student Association, some things at Ottawa University. Made some friends from Venezuela. Those friends, wow, wonder how they're doing. We're always together now, always drinking and partying, and they're supposedly there to learn English, but there was much more Spanish going on, and my Spanish just improved leaps and bounds in those first months after coming back. So it's that immersion that I was able to get 24/7 in those 2 weeks in Ecuador, and coming back and then throwing myself in that artificial immersion situation that I've created for myself. Being best buddies with these guys from Venezuela, and just all the time we were going out and just having fun and using the little Spanish that I had, making that grow and grow and grow. And I was in Ottawa U for 1 year, but at the end of that year, I felt I was fluent, and it just continued like that. And before you know it, I was getting some I would always be jumping into situations where I could use my Spanish, and even at these conferences and Congress, where they need interpreters. If it's like Quebec City, I was in Quebec City for 5 years. you're not going to find so many, Spanish, English, or Spanish, French, or Spanish, Japanese interpreters. So I was doing that kind of jobs left and right, and just continuously improving my situation in Spanish. And I was even sent down to the Dominican Republic once as a Spanish, English, French, Japanese interpreter. It's like
Nice.
a Japanese company from Japan, a major, corporation from Japan coming, and then French, like from France, the French chocolate company. They were meeting in República Dominicana to talk about how, this cocoa bean farm there and what they're going to produce there, and I was the only one sent in from Quebec. So that was fun. Wow. See, those are great experiences with languages. Just because I knew some languages, that gives you these opportunities, and lots of fun. Lots of fun.
Nice. Yeah, I'm thinking like you seem to be pretty relaxed person, a pretty, I mean, easygoing, but also bold in terms of, because sometimes I see people like when you talked about going to Ecuador, not really worrying. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but because a lot of people when they when they get to a country in which the language they're trying to learn is spoken, they're afraid at the beginning, they're not sure of themselves, they're shy, you know what I mean? So you seem like that wasn't a problem at all. Or so, or do you have any moments in which, even with your earlier French experiences, that you felt frustration of like like you said about the teacher, like she's moving her lips, but you're not what she's saying.
Now that I think about it, I think it's how you see these obstacles. It's just a frame of mind. It's just a point of view. It's just how you position it in your head. Perhaps it just came naturally to me to not see these as obstacles. Oh, this is hard. Oh, I don't want to do this. But rather, what's beyond that? The fun that I was going to have with this person. In order to get this, I need to learn French. Okay, well, it's a challenge. You sort of change the obstacle to a challenge, which is now a motivator rather than an obstacle. So I guess if you think about making mistakes and losing face, that sort of demotivates you. But that was just a cost of doing business that I didn't really think about so much. It's what did I want? I wanted to play with this person, I wanted to spend time with this person. And the medium of communication is French. Then okay, pick up the Becherel and start conjugating verbs. It's just when you buy stuff, when you buy a camera that's $100, then you pay $100. It's just the cost of doing business. Absolutely. That's just sort of how I saw it, I guess. You don't question that part, like $100. Oh, it's too much. Do you want it? You want it, then you pay. It's a voluntary transaction, I guess.
Yeah, it's a great mindset. I like it. Absolutely.
I guess so. I try to inculcate that to my kids. Don't think about what it costs or what the negative aspects of anything, other than, do you want it? Now, do you want it? If you don't want it, if you don't like it, okay, fine. But if you want it, don't take all the other stuff as excuses. You're going to be unhappy. If you want it, find a way. If you can't pay this cost, find a way to earn this money to pay it, or find some other way to overcome it. But focus on wanting that thing. If that's what you want, find a way. I think that's just the way I was brought up, and it's pretty much how I'm trying to.
How you roll? I like it. I like that. I like that mindset. Yeah. But I also like when it comes to languages,
Yeah.
But you said that you wanted to communicate with that person, and French happened to be the way to communicate. And that's something that I always talk about, that communication, the message is the most important thing. But it happens to happen in a language, in a specific language. But yeah, I like that. Yeah.
So learning the language in and of itself is not the goal. It's that communication, it's that connection that you're trying to make with the person that's really the motivator. So yeah, in a sense, I think maybe that's how I was able to overcome. I mean, do I speak perfect Spanish? I mean, no. But hey, people paid me money to be an interpreter. You know, I must be doing it to a pretty good level, right? But I failed actually here. I actually failed my español para extranjeros, my español avanzado para extranjeros. The only Spanish course that I took in my life. When I did the placement test, they said, "No, you speak." Put me in the highest level. You know, all the subjuntivos and all that. No clue. So I did that. I failed the course, but I still partied with all my buddies. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, which speaks to how those courses connect to reality, right? How far off they're from reality.
Yes, yes. I mean, you know, I'm not discouraging people to take courses. It's just that what is the purpose and what is your goal with that language? You just have to, you know, make it clear. And if it's communications, then take a course if it's a shortcut for yourself, if it's something that motivates you to push yourself. But don't worry about the grade in and of itself.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to become a translator, you need good grammar. Okay, you know, but that's a different goal, right? Translation in and of itself is the goal. Then you need to know your grammar. And so what are you learning the languages for? And that could you know, allow you to focus better on the actual target.
Yeah, and before we get into raising your kids, I'm also interested in knowing about your interpreter experiences. Like, what does it look like? Like, is it like you're, you know, you're in the cabin, they're speaking different languages, and you're it's not simultaneous.
No, exactly, it's not simultaneous. It's really I mean, hats off to all the simultaneous.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's why I was asking. Yeah.
That is a job for, you know, like really skilled, and I would even say you need that personality for it. I think it's and I'm just not a person who can multitask. So if I'm talking, I can't listen. If I'm listening, I can't talk. If I'm on the phone and you talk to me, I miss what I'm, you know, trying to listen for. So a simultaneous interpretation just sounds like an impossible task for me.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's true, because it's a really stressful work. It's no wonder at these conferences they need, you know, at least 2-3 interpreters, and they don't go for more than 15 minutes at a time.
You
know? And hats off to I think mostly women who are simultaneous translators, interpreters. Maybe it's because, you know, they're better at multitasking. I think maybe it's a sexist thing to say. I'm sorry, but hats off. Anyways, and what I was doing is obviously sequential interpretation. So somebody would say something, jot down what he's saying, and then I pass on the message to the next person. So it's always going through me, back, forth, like this. And I've done a few of those. You know, with all these languages, you know, sometimes it's a paid gig, like the one I was telling you about, going to Santo Domingo. I was in Quebec City in those days. I was registered on Berlitz, the company Berlitz, as a Japanese, French, English interpreter, and I've had a few gigs where like engineers from Japan came to these big paper mills. They had these machineries, like $5-10 million machinery, and the engineers have to come, they install it, and when they install it, they have to explain to all the local guys how to operate it and whatnot. So those were stressful. They send me like a whole packet. You have to go through all that. But being trained in the sciences, does help. Going through all the technical terms and whatnot. And I did a few of those with Berlitz, and those are fun. Those are fun. So it was French and Japanese, French, Japanese, back and forth.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, it's still hard, but it's totally easier than.
Yeah, and also it's a very rare combination. So Japanese, French. I mean, I don't have any certification per se as an interpreter. But who else are you gonna find in Quebec City?
Yeah.
So that was that was great. The same engineers came back a few years after for as a follow up, and they called on me again, specifically for that job, and so that was good. And it shows that what I was doing was satisfactory to them.
Yeah, exactly.
To both sides, right?
They were satisfied with your work. So,
but all my respect to interpreters and translators. It's just not a job that I can do for extended periods of time. These gigs that I was doing while I was a student, it helps. It's like paid $100 an hour. It's way more than what a student can earn, or any entry level job.
Scarcity, I guess, right?
Yes, but scarcity also meant that I wasn't doing it every weekend. It's just I have one contract every few months, so it's not what gets me the millions of dollars. And also I wouldn't want to work even at that price. The first time they were there, it's like minimum contract hours are 8 hours. So even if you work for 1 hour, they pay you 8 hours. And I was thinking, oh, great. But they went for 11 hours that first time. I thought I was going to die.
Right.
I'm like, God, stop.
Like your mind's
it's just going to explode. So that's 11 hours the first time. Second time it was only 3 or 4 hours. So that was nice. But it's a tough job. Bottom line is it's a tough job. And it's just not something I enjoy, particularly.
Because it's not natural communication. So your brain's working all the time,
And you have to make sure you don't put in your opinion. I mean, this was technical stuff. There's not a lot of opinions. I can imagine if it's I don't know, like politics or something, like if you're left wing and right wing, and you sort of like, I don't want to translate this, it goes against what I feel. I can sort of see how that could be a problem for certain people, because it's not your ideas, right? You're listening to other people's ideas, and you have to translate it exactly to the other side. People don't care about your opinion as a translator. That's not so. Domains, if you feel strongly about education or things like that, a conference on if it were a conference on how to raise multilingual kids, and I'm like an interpreter in there, like I have my thoughts. I don't think that's the right way, and I have to still
so this is what he said, but I don't agree with it.
Exactly. It's like, who the hell are you?
Right. Yeah, I'm just imagining in a G8 or like country presidents, you're translating the Russian president to the American one. Like, well.
Exactly. That would be so much pressure.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that would be
messed up a little thing.
Exactly, you make a mistake. Oh my God, it's almost like doctors. You have to be insured. Because you could get sued to.
Right. Cool. So let's make a transition to the way you're raising your kids, like you said. And so how are you going about it? Like, are you? Because I've watched some of your content, and I know you have Mexican, but Spanish speaking au pair
Yes, yes,
for
yes, yes,
for Spanish, but
yes.
what are the languages you're using as a parent
Hmm. So
to
let me
help
give
them
you the whole
acquire
concept.
in a natural way, or what, yeah, what's
Oh,
the
yeah,
dynamic there? Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. So the whole concept of how I raise my kids are essentially the same concept strategies that allowed me to grow up as a multilingual. The key word here is environment, right? You want to create an optimal environment or infrastructure that allows them, that compels the kids to speak a specific language, rather than making studying language like the main goal. It's to, like I mentioned earlier, the ultimate purpose is that person you're communicating with. And in order to communicate with that person, you need this language. Okay, so make an environment that's optimized for these type of choices, language choices. So in our family, I speak Mandarin with the kids. My father, my parents also live with us, so my father, who's Taiwanese, also speaks Mandarin with the kids. My wife is Japanese. My mother is Japanese. So both of them speak Japanese with the kids. We live in Quebec, go to school in French, right? And being in Canada, we turn on the TV, there's English. There's some friends here that are Anglophones. When I can find Anglophone teachers or tutors or coaches, like skating coach, my daughter's horseback riding coach. If I can find them speaking English, then I ask them to speak English with the kids. So that's sort of like English is like different inputs, but nothing formally structured. And then you mentioned earlier Spanish. This is like the only one where we like made a conscious effort to artificially introduce this language into the household by bringing in what are called au pairs. So these are babysitters, nannies who live in our house. They come from different countries. These are often very young girls or men that we find on these au pair sites. And they would live with us for anywhere from 6 months to the longest one was like 18 months, 15, 18 months. Right. And they come in here, they want to visit and travel, come to Canada for that. And in the house, they speak exclusively Spanish with the kids, right? So the kids, they spend a lot of time with these caregivers, and obviously they have to speak Spanish with the person that they're speaking to, and that allows them to have all these 5 languages, in a natural setting. Exactly. Where they are compelled to use these languages in a relatively balanced way, right? They go to school for 6-7 hours a day. They spend 4 or 5 hours with the au pair, some in the morning, when they come back, spend time with daddy and mommy, obviously. So all these languages are relatively balanced, even though French is the only one that's formal instruction is in French, so they know the grammar and whatnot. Right. And that's good. Like French, I would say, has the most complex grammar, so they learn that well at school. Then all the other languages should come relatively easy. And on top of that, something that we've been doing, is that we would go to Japan and Taiwan every spring and summer. So as a matter of fact, the kids are in Japan right now, except my oldest one. So the kids would go to Japan for 2 months from May, June, and then 2 months in Taiwan, July and August, and then come back here to start the whole school cycle in September. So that's just a little way for them to really be immersed in that language 24/7 and use it with everybody that they encounter,
and the culture as well, right?
Yeah, and obviously the culture, and also finding their roots, meeting family members, all that together, It's something we've been doing. It's just that the pandemic sort of threw us off a little bit. So we'll be going to Taiwan this summer for the first time since the pandemic started. But they've been going to Japan every summer though. So they still went to Japan, and they go to Japan, they go to the local school. So they will still be educated, be able to read and write in Chinese characters and whatnot. So that's how we get these 5 languages to be, top notch, age standardized level, as much as possible. So we can, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Because I was thinking that even with Spanish, which is the only one that was, like you said, artificially introduced, but it's still a natural way to go about it.
It is. That's right.
The key to me. Yeah.
Exactly. When we have our au pairs come, we do ask them to, bring some books. We'll pay them to buy some local books that they think are good for the kids at their age. And we'll get them to read a little bit with the au pair, so they can still read. And, especially since they can read French, I mean, the basic concept of reading is still the same. And they can, and they can conjugate the verbs, not because they've went through the conjugation, but because they read. They do love reading. And this is, basic comprehensible input, right? I mean, I think you like Stephen Krashen. So that's how they learn grammar, not studying grammar, but through lots of reading and interaction and actually speaking and watching. Sometimes they watch YouTube, and if it comes up in Spanish, then so be it. They'll watch it in Spanish with the au pair.
Exactly. Yeah. And I'm also curious, like the first time you brought in a babysitter and au pair.
Yep.
Because was that your kid's first experience with or first contact with Spanish, or did you use it?
So if I explain a little bit about my where I've lived. So I grew up in Taiwan. I came to Canada, went through high school, university, and also graduate studies. It's after I finished my doctorate, I went to Japan to live and work in Japan. And that's where I met my wife, and I was there for about 10 years. And I had my first 2 children in Japan. So, and then after all that, I came back to Canada in 2015 with the wife and the kids. And that's when we started this au pair thing. So my oldest was 3, and my younger one at that time was 18 months. So I don't know if my son still remembers the first time he met. I don't think so. I mean, at 3, it's hard to remember everything that happened at 3. So for all intents and purposes, it's as if there was just a natural exposure to Spanish from basically as far as I can remember. And that was also the same time that he started French. Like, he came back to Canada.
Yeah.
So they don't, for all they know, they've had a Spanish babysitter throughout their life, for as far as they can remember. Especially for the other 3. Like, my daughter was only 18 months at that time, and then my 2 other kids, since birth, that they have a caregiver who always spoke Spanish to them. So that's just the reality in life. It's just it's like air, right? It's just how it is. They don't question it.
Yeah, I'm mostly curious about that first experience that you were mentioning was when you brought in the first babysitter, Spanish speaking babysitter, that your oldest son was 3. And obviously he wasn't worried about anything. We just taking it in, right? But when he tried to reply, did he use Japanese with her?
No.
Or how was that? That's what I'm interested in. What I mean?
Okay. Yeah. My son was 3, but he went to an American English speaking daycare in Taiwan. I'm sort of jumping a little bit here and there and skipping some details, but when I had my first son, we were in Japan. My wife was still going to school, so we couldn't come back to Canada right away. But I thought, I could get my kids to more exposure to Mandarin before we come back to Canada. And I worked from home at that time, so it didn't matter where it was located. So I brought my son to Taiwan so that he would get much more exposure to Mandarin. And at the same time, I sent him to an English-speaking daycare in Taiwan, so he would have English input and Mandarin input at the same time. And so when we came back to Canada and we had the Spanish-speaking au pair, at first he was answering in English, since that's the only thing he knew that was in common with something that she would understand to a certain degree. But that didn't last very long. I have a video on my channel actually of him, I think about 1 week into the au pair experience, and she was getting him to count, uno, dos, tres, cuatro. Yeah. And then he was otra vez. So he was already open to that input in Spanish. He wasn't like rejecting it because he's still too young to really think about it being in some. It was just fun. It's like, wow, this big sister was there and playing with him, but she's speaking something he didn't understand. But so what, and then we go to daycare and then there's a French and another thing that he didn't understand. So and oftentimes from the daycare, they would say, oh, you should speak French at home because he doesn't speak and doesn't understand us. It's okay. Yeah. Thanks. I understand your concerns and thank you very much. But this is what we have the 5 languages, and it's okay. Don't worry, he will catch up. And if he gets bad grades, I mean, at daycare you don't have any grades, but even if he gets bad grades,
fine.
No, we're not focused on grades. When we go to Japan, I tell the teachers, we're not like so focused on grades right yet. They can focus on studying, in high school, but in elementary school, I just want them to play, and I just want them to make friends, be able to integrate into the social circles, have their world, the kids' world, and allow them to be able to communicate and thrive in that environment, in that language. That is, the best results that I can hope.
You're doing it naturally, so the process will work. It's just that for monolingual kids, they must start speaking right away. I mean, when they're in daycare, in the language, because that's the only language they listen to. But for your kid in this example, they've been exposed to 4 or 5 different languages, so there's different timings, right? There are
different timings.
But the process is working. That's the bottom line, right?
But there is a misconception that lots of people would use. If you do 2, 3, 4 languages, your kids will be delayed. That's what lots of people say. Now, I cannot refute that they will not. I mean, I cannot refute that they will be delayed, as in that I cannot guarantee that they will not be delayed, but there is no solid evidence that they will be delayed. Okay, so the studies do not show that they will be delayed. They don't show that they will not be delayed, but it's within the margin of error of most kids, the margin of variation of most children, because some kids can start talking as late as 4 years old.
Even monolingual. You mean
monolingual kids? That's So it's within that range for all these kids, and even with my 4 kids, my first one was really quick. Second one was really slow, so slow that I was doubting myself, and I actually did take her to a speech therapist. Which is really ironic because just a few weeks after seeing the speech therapist, her vocabulary exploded and she caught up, with everybody really quickly. And now her French is actually stronger than her peers. Same thing with my first child. So not just because they speak 5 languages doesn't mean that they're sacrificing their French.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's like the big message that I would have to all those doubters. They actually have better French, at least from a grades perspective, than the local kids. Okay, my third child was normal, neither fast nor slow. My youngest was really fast. I think she was the fastest to start uttering words. So there's so much variation, and we just don't worry about it. Of course, educators who do come to us and say, we have to speak French at home. We're grateful that they're concerned for the well-being of our children. But I would just let them know that it's a conscious effort, and we will assume the responsibilities, and we'll never blame the educators for any language delays. Let them know that it is a strategy that
you know what you're doing, right? That's
indeed. I mean, these are my kids. I mean, I'm putting their future on the line. So definitely.
If you're not interested in providing the best possible experience, do it, right? Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And so far, so good. So far, so good. Yeah. If I come back to the story of my daughter, so she got us worried a little bit. She was almost 5. And she wasn't stringing, full sentences quite well at that time. It's just words were in French.
French or French? Okay.
In French. It was in French. But even in Japanese, I mean, she spoke more Japanese. And when she got stuck, she would use Japanese to fill in the gaps. But I don't think she was ever very strong in languages from the get-go. But so we brought her to see a language therapist, speech therapist here, and she didn't tell us anything we didn't know. She was like, I'm not a language expert, but the fact that you're doing 5 languages is probably the cause. Oh, really? And but she what I did and appreciate is that she says she's a little late, but it's still within the lower bound of normalcy.
Yeah.
So she was not like significantly delayed. So she said, let's watch and see for a little bit to see if she won't catch up naturally, which is exactly what happened. I mean, it's almost as if it was planned. Like 2-3 weeks after, you could literally see her vocabulary explode. I don't know why. I mean, I don't know what the trigger is, or it's just a natural, event that came. But it was really clear that from a specific point, suddenly her vocabulary exploded. I don't think I've seen that with the other kids. It's always like really gradually. Like over time, you don't realize it's like seeing your kids grow up. You don't see them like grow up significantly from overnight. But with her languages, with her vocabulary, that it was quite striking. So that's the only case of my 4 kids that I could say that it was a delay. But even then, it's just within the normal range. She was the slowest, but now she's got fantastic grades, and not that we focus on grades, but it's there. I'm like, okay.
But still, I'm thinking that she still was delayed. I mean, she was delayed when it comes to communicating, but the language was in her head the same way. It's just that for whatever reason, the same way monolingual kids start speaking earlier or later, but the process working for all of them. It's just that for whatever reason that I personally don't understand, and you said that you don't know why, some kids start speaking later, others start speaking earlier. But it's the language was there. It's just that
it's the output. Yeah, it's the extraction of the abstract concepts, extract it out and being able to express it. And from I think conceptually she had everything in her head. It's just she couldn't
Exactly.
say the word for it.
Yeah, like I always talk about the fact that we can always understand way more than we can say in
Indeed.
any language we're learning, right? It's just the way the process works. It doesn't mean the process is not working. It's just what it is.
Yeah, that's why it's so important. That's why I believe in the Krashen hypothesis so much. Like it's the understanding that comes before anything. You need to be able to understand. You need to first understand, then be able to retain, and then finally be able to output. I mean, if you can't understand, I mean, the downstream processes cannot work. So
it's nice.
yeah, indeed. So the kids are now 10, 9. My oldest is almost 11. Wow, my goodness, yeah, pretty soon. So 10, 9, 6, and 3. So far so good. Growing up very quickly. That's the only sad part.
But the bottom line is it's working for all of them.
It is. I can say at least more than 10 years. You know, it's been working. And one thing, here's one thing. If anybody wants to have one message, I think about language learning is that it's not about language learning. It's about creating that bond, that trusting relationship with the person that you're speaking to, or in this case with kids. I hear so many parents come to me with my kids refuse to speak the target language, things like that. It's a huge headache, and I've always, I knew that this is a big problem before I had kids, so I wanted to make absolutely sure that we don't have to go down that path. It's much easier to prevent than to fix. So my oldest is now going on 11 years old, and we've never had an issue with all 4 kids about refusing to speak. It's just never come up. And I think it's really because we have a very strong communication, trusting relationship. We make that a priority. So much that I actually, every few weeks I schedule a period of time where I just sit them down, like one by one. We call it the 1-1 session. Sit them down since they're 8 years old. Okay, so my oldest and my second one does this every few weeks. We sit down, we talk about everything and nothing, anything at the same time. Just how was it at school? What do you want to be later in life? How was the hockey game? How's the horseback riding going? Any troubles here or there? Is there bullying at school? And that's like a moment where we just talk peacefully. It's not like a moment where they did something wrong and we're like on their case. In fact, we don't have a lot of those situations specifically because we have a separate time sort of for that. So if we have to scold them for something, it'll be very quick. But later when we're all, emotionally very stable, we sit down and we talk, the other day that thing happened, this is why we think it's dangerous for you to do this or that, or, this is why we think you should do this, or this is why. And it's also a time for us as parents to sort of bring it down to their level and also expose sort of our thoughts as human beings. We have our weaknesses. If we have anything we need to apologize for, that's when we do it. And like I said, it's really that moment where we create that bond. We create this situation where communication is the main objective over this, whether it's 5 minutes or 30 minutes. It depends. This is a lot of time where we talk about values in life. Hard work or schooling, education, finance, boys and girls. Nice. It's something that we've been doing for now, about 2 years, and hopefully it'll be something that's for the long run. and even when they're adults, at school, young adults, the problems change, but there's still going to be problems.
Oh, yeah.
And we're always going to be older than them, with more experience, and hopefully they will look to us as for guidance. But in order for them to come to us, they need to respect us. In order to respect us, it's not through authority, but it's through trust and through showing them, how much we care about them.
Exactly.
Sometimes just saying it doesn't cut it. So
yeah, you gotta show them.
Taking that time, out of our busy schedules, because I think the most generous gift that somebody can give you is time, and that's not money, or things, right? So that's something we do with the kids, and that, I think, is the ultimate secret to not getting the kids to refuse to speak a target language that we want them to speak.
Right.
Other than the natural, environment optimizing strategies that we put in. If they don't want to speak a language, they can just go off and speak another language and refuse to speak the language that we're using. If they want to rebel, that's one of the quickest way that they can do it. But so far so good. And I think our whole project, our sort of formal way of creating this environment and formal training period, let's just say, for our kids is minimum 10 years, ideally 12 years. So that's, so my son is going on 11 now, so he's already crossed the minimum line. If today, if tomorrow we stop all of this, if he decides he's not going to speak Mandarin with me anymore, we would still have achieved our goals. And I think Mandarin, he's at such a level that I don't think he will ever forget Mandarin. It's like integrated into his DNA now.
It's here, yeah.
Yeah, it's not like if he stopped at 6 or even 7, then there's a risk of it fading away. But I left Taiwan when I was 13, and I did not speak Mandarin until I was 29 when I went back to Japan. But it was there, at the 13-year-old level, but it was there. So my son, he's at a very strong level, enough for it to be there forever, and also enough for him to use it as a springboard. If he ever wanted to live in China or Taiwan or Singapore, Singapore is English, but if he wanted to live in a Chinese-speaking country, he would be able to do it, and have that foundation already to work on. He'll be able to progress very, very, very quickly to professional levels if he ever wanted to. So that's enough. That's enough. Maybe he'll never go to a Chinese-speaking country, right? But he's got enough Chinese in him that whatever he pursues as a career, later in life, he's got enough for him to be able to communicate with Chinese counterparts, and be able to make good relationships with clients, and or friend clients, whatnot. So it's enough. We've achieved our objectives from that perspective.
Right. Yeah, so you've done that for him, and then it's on him to decide whether.
Exactly. It's there. That tool will be with them forever. I think we've gotten to that level. All right. So yeah, I talk about this a lot with parents. It's that relationship. That's the first thing. Right. Yes, I preach about raising kids in multiple languages, the infrastructure and whatnot, but if you don't have that trusting relationship, the risks of them not appreciating your efforts or finding it as a burden, you just want to control me kind of response, are higher. So that's
And probably you've never forced them to speak or to communicate in a specific language. That's why,
No.
ironically, that's why they're willing to use it, right?
Indeed.
That's probably one of the issues, that those parents that you were referring to, that they said that their kid refused to communicate in a target language. Probably they were forcing him or her to communicate.
Yes.
Or
Yeah.
things
Or at
like
least or at least that's the perception from the kids'
yeah, exactly.
point of view. Yeah. Indeed. You never want to make it into a chore. It's just there's just so much you can force your kids to do, whether it's languages or anything else in life. So if I diverge a little bit from languages, all these different skills that they pursue in sports or art or music or whatever. What we want to do is still the same concept. You make the infrastructure that allows them to naturally pick up that instrument if it's there, right? Pick up that hockey stick. Give them the exposure. Give them some challenges. Gamify all these things. So like my kid, my son, he loves hockey. Okay, or he says he loves hockey, but he doesn't love it enough to like practice. I can understand. I mean, it's just boring drills, right? It's like it's like reading grammar. I mean, it's just boring stuff, right?
Exactly.
So I buy these games where he needs to take the puck and sort of get hits, within a certain time, and then he has to improve on that. That's how I make it into a challenge, and then he's like on it, day and night, and his hockey skills improve tremendously. Because when he was younger, I love hockey, but I want to make sure I don't like impose hockey on him, even though I would love to see him, become really good at hockey. But it could be anything else. But turns out, I gave him a lot of exposure to skating and hockey, but he just wasn't improving. And he says he likes hockey, but on the ice, he's like, the puck could be here and he's like over here, And I asked him, do you really want to play? It's like, yes. I said, if you don't want to, we can do something else. Don't do it for daddy,
Yeah.
And I just wanted to make really sure that was the case. But I see that, it's not really hockey. It wasn't, hockey per se. That was the fun part. It was that social aspect of hockey. We're in the room where they're changing and it's just playing around and goofing around.
Right.
That's what he loves, that camaraderie in the dressing room. So it's always that part that he loves. I just let him play. But since last year or about a year and a half ago, suddenly now I see that his motivation has really boosted a lot. But in the meantime, all his friends like sort of surpassed him. So, his like development was kind of like this, and his friends were like this, and his friends sort of just surpassed him like in the past 3-4 years, like just one after another. He used to be like super strong because he's a very good skater. It's just that when you give him a puck, it just drops at zero. But recently he's really like motivated in the games and whatnot. But unfortunately, he sees that he's not making the strong teams because he doesn't have those skills. And I can tell him, if you want to make the big teams, if you want to, follow your friends into the big teams, you got to practice. But he still doesn't really do it. But recently, I found these different games and stuff that he could do, and just I buy this and put it there. That gets him going, Now, is that good? Is that bad? It meets the purpose of getting him to improve, and he is practicing. So that sort of satisfies the objectives in life. I'm just hoping that he will learn that whatever he loves, whatever he does in life, even if he loves it, there's going to be aspects like practice that's just boring. It's just burdensome. that he's going to have to go through and still do it. He can find ways to make it fun by himself. You know, hopefully this will be a case study where he's got to be creative, but he's going to have to get that job done in order to enjoy the glorious part. Like you see these professional players, but you don't see all the hard work behind the scenes. You know, I don't expect them to become a professional hockey player. That's definitely not the goal. But in whatever they want to pursue in life, they're gonna have to do some yucky stuff in order to attain that fun, you know, the final objective.
Yeah,
that's what I'm hoping. You can't just do what you love. You can't just do that. There's nothing in the world that is only going to be fun. Like, so hopefully
it's finding the balance.
Yeah. No, I'm not going to tell them become a doctor, become a lawyer, become this or that, but I'm going to help them think like through these one-on-one sessions on how to think about career, how to find something that is meaningful, that they will love, that they will be able to do for the rest of their life. But even that fun thing will be associated with lots of yucky stuff that it's going to have to do, right? So you cannot just have the fun and not the yucky. I just don't want them to be skipping from one thing to another, just because every time he hits the wall, he thinks that, you know, something that he doesn't like. You know,
it's not fun.
Like hockey, you know, I do see that he likes hockey, but he doesn't like practice. Find a way to build that in order for you to improve in what you want to do. So there's an example of something that's, you know, not language related, but in a way, sort of in the same concept. You know, it's developing a skill by creating a good environment and pushing and achieving high levels naturally. Compel yourself to be able to do it.
Yeah, but it can be used for languages, so it's
absolutely
a great mindset overall. So that's always welcome, you know.
It's simple. You know, I always say the concepts that we use are very simple. Simple doesn't mean it's easy. Okay, and implementation in and of itself, you can make it as hard as, you know, as your context requires. You know, not everybody is in a cross-cultural relationship, so already there doesn't mean you have two languages already off the bat. Not everybody's living in a different country. Not everybody's
exactly.
Not everybody have the same financial resources or the time resources, so it's different. But not everybody's aiming for 5 languages. Not everybody's aiming for, you know, native level speech. So before you start on this journey, you have to make sure that you know what the objectives are and what the costs are, and whether you're ready to pay that price for this. Or perhaps maybe you just want this and you can, you know, pay it at a lower price. That's possible, right? You can't pay this and get this. That's just, you know,
doesn't work out.
You can't get a Lamborghini at the cost of a Honda. It's just not going to work, right?
Exactly.
And maybe all you need is a Honda. Who knows, right? So clarify that part first. That'll make your expectations and the results concord at the end.
Yeah, good point. It can be applied to languages. Good point. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. So
well.
Thank
Suddenly,
you very much for your awesome experiences.
That was quick. An hour and 20 minutes already.
I think that's gonna help a lot of people. It's I like
hopefully.
your relaxing way of going about life in general, but
and yeah, I can talk forever because it's a simple concept. The specifics are in the details. I mean, obviously, but the concept, the global concept, is very simple.
It is.
Supply whatever we need to execute.
Okay, so
thank you so much. Feels like I've been talking to a good friend for a long time and sort of getting things off my chest.
My pleasure. And yeah, I'll leave the links to your project in case people want to watch some of your videos.
Absolutely. You know, all my social media is at Ask Tetsu. So ask away, you know, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. all those are at Ask Tetsu.
Perfect.
All right.
So thank you very much again, and yeah,
Thank you. Thank you for being a great host.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Good luck.
Thanks so much for watching this interview. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was helpful for you. And if you want to know more about language learning, language acquisition, like, you know, what's the best way to learn a language, ideas for language learning, the best resources at different levels, here you can find the whole playlist with all the interviews I've done so far with different researchers, teachers, polyglots, and so on. And finally, right here, you smash this guy right in the face to subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.